market space. How many in here are really excited about what the NSA has been doing? Yeah?
When are they going to come?
Exactly. I mean, I'm really excited because it's great for business. But aside from that, I don't think too many people here like it, and I don't think too many people in general like it. So what we do is we enable encrypted and safe browsing for consumers at an affordable price. So think about VPN meets UTM for the consumer space. But it's, of course, happening in the cloud. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So we operate our own cloud. We're founded in 2010, venture-backed since 2012. We're currently 8 employees. We're installed on a little over 10 million desktops today. We were a 2013 RSA Innovation Sandbox finalist, and we are a top 10 most popular security product on CNET. So why do you need this? Well, safety on public networks. You know, you've all heard that when you're on Wi-Fi, you should use a VPN. Great. Traffic neutrality, it's becoming really important these days if you've been keeping up on net neutrality laws and some of the changes happening there. An additional layer of protection from traditional anti-malware. And I don't know about you, but I seem to think that consumer anti-malware is broken. And I think we need a little bit more defense in depth in that space. Major privacy advantages to what we do. I'll go into the details about that. And of course, it's pretty affordable. I'll skip over this slide. That's me at the top, my co-founder, Dean. We're on all major platforms right now. So we've got this really lightweight client. It's Mac, PC, Android, iOS. And as of just recently, inside of Google Chrome, which is a pretty exciting product. You can go to the Chrome extension store, install it in a couple seconds. Turns everything inside of Chrome into HTTPS. Accelerates it through SPDY. Does a whole bunch of stuff on the traffic to inspect it for malware and other bad stuff. Gets rid of tracking cookies and all that. So what do? I just mentioned some of these things, but basically we take all that traffic through a VPN or through some of these extensions, and we inspect it through deep packet inspection, just like the NSA, except we are actually not looking at it ourselves. We're looking at it in an automated fashion for malware, for phishing, botnets, a lot of tracking stuff, and for those people who want it, anti-peer-to-peer protection. We also do a whole bunch of web acceleration techniques especially for mobile devices, to speed up the overall traffic. So we take all the JavaScript and CSS on a web page, mush it together in a single file, and ship it over the wire. We compress everything. We reduce image scale to be more appropriate for the device. Overall, we get about 30 to 50% reduction in bandwidth to your mobile device from using our client. So we're the only consumer-based VPN service that actually provides this full security stack, and that's really important. This isn't just network encryption. This is a full stack like you would get in an enterprise with a UTM. We develop and deploy our own appliances, and we operate our own cloud across major data centers here in the United States. And all the encryption uses 4096-bit keys. So some similar products out there. You can see some of the features comparison. On average, we have less than 10 millisecond latency between anybody in the United States and our data centers. So really, to do this at scale, because we're doing encryption and adding overhead, we need to be really quick. So we need to be in a lot of places. We need to be close to consumers, and that's what we're doing. We have over 1,000 peering partners, so we're close to content. So when you go to access your favorite content on YouTube, on Netflix, all those guys are pretty close to us in the data center. Makes it a lot better than, you know, being in some small data center and having extra hops to get to the content. We manage everything in kind of a DevOps environment. I'm not going to get too technical. So when we first started this space, we looked at the market and we said, let's just buy a whole bunch of, you know, Cisco gear or SonicWall gear or Juniper gear. And we started looking at the specs and really stress testing some of this stuff, and it turns out that there's a real void in the market. A lot of these appliances, they use what I like to say, antiquated VPN technologies, IPsec and PPTP, which no one should be using. But the overall throughput and the overall number of sessions that you can handle on these appliances was actually pretty low. And so we decided, let's start from ground up. Let's use an open source foundation. Let's kind of build our own appliance. And so today we're able to roll out our appliance at a fraction of the cost of any of these hardware vendors and support a much larger throughput. Some of the technologies we use, in case anyone's interested. Suricata is a foundation of our DPI. We take a lot of all this intelligence that many of the open source projects out there have, and we try to mash it all together into our own predictive intelligence engine. We also look at some of the data that is being created on our side to see if we can find any trends for new malware, new botnet activity. It's kind of funny usually when you start seeing a whole bunch of DNS requests to things that you can't pronounce, domains that are like 200 characters long. It's probably a botnet. So it's when you have enough traffic, it's really easy to kind of start seeing new things and react to that. So this is really cool because when you've got this centralized cloud that can do all this for you, right? We're no longer dependent on actually programming security stacks for all these appliances that are coming to the market. I see Google Glass over there, fridges, televisions. What are you going to do to protect those devices? Just trust the vendor? See how well that's worked. So we're trying to basically create an approach where we can take any device, take the traffic from that device, inspect it, and if we see bad things, block it and make the end user aware that there's a problem. And it's $29.95 a year. That gets you 5 licenses across desktop, mobile, or if you want just mobile, it's $5.99 a year. Pretty cheap. So I thought I'd give a quick demo. Let's see, where do I start? This is our lightweight desktop client. Connect on up. Once it's connected, it'll maintain that connection until you decide to terminate it. So even if I shut my computer now, walk away, come back later, it'll know that I had enabled it and automatically reestablish that. So I'm going to go to Firefox here. And so I visited the CNN website before I started the presentation when I had our client off. And you can see how just beautiful this website is. It's basically a giant platform for advertising. There's ads everywhere. I can't really figure out where the news are. This teen drive thing was actually all the way down, and luckily it popped back up. So let's, yeah, go Bieber. So I'm going to reload this page. And there's a whole lot of requests. So if I move this down for a second. First thing you notice, it's a lot cleaner. Sorry, ad networks. But we basically took all the ads out, made this page load a lot faster, and tracked all those statistics for you. We'll send them back in a dashboard. But let's do something a little more malicious. Where's the download? For those of you who aren't familiar with iCar, it's basically a virus test file for antivirus vendors to use and test. So there, the signature was embedded inside of a zip file. That was inspected in real time and blocked. Here it's embedded in an executable, embedded and blocked. So one of the things we found out is that having like a full-fledged VPN client like this to do all this is great, but sometimes it's a little too much overhead for the average consumer. And so we've been taking some notes from our customers, and we decided to do something a little more lightweight. And the really nice thing about Google Chrome is that it supports HTTPS tunneling right inside of the browser. And so I'm going to go to the Google extension store and install our new extension. Or actually, I can go to our website and do that if this is being slow. Come on, Google. Download from Google.
Maybe in the meantime, can answer any questions if people have.
Oh yeah, anybody has questions, go ahead.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So a couple of days ago, Star released a security issue with Android saying that they could bypass any VPN.
Okay.
How would you guys deal with that?
In terms of,
So this runs on a VPN basically.
Yeah.
You run a VPN and then the VPN goes to the cloud and checks, makes all these security checks, and then does something based on those checks.
yeah,
A piece of malware or somehow somebody would be able to just bypass the VPN. Obviously, none of that would get done, right?
so we have a watcher in our Android app that actually inspects the active routes in the network stack to make sure that the proper routes are always in place. So unless they were somehow able to, I guess, trick the kernel into routing around what the route table is, then I don't know. That's an Android problem, I guess. but I highly doubt it that it's probably at that level. It might be a little bit higher up in stack.
This is a layer 4 VPN or a layer 7?
The VPN is happening at layer 4. So now we have the extension enable. And you'll notice that it just comes up here right in the browser. And we can actually do site-by-site protection. So if you don't want this enabled for specific sites, that's great. But of course, you still get all the benefit of the back end. So I wish I could show the Android, but it's not too easy to do a screencast. At least I don't know how to do it. But that's pretty much it.
So if you log into Gmail, will you be able to scan the email coming in?
If we log into Gmail, no. Anything that's encrypted, we're not scanning. We are working on that, but there's some issues involved with legally with doing that. So it's one of those absolute consent things. But yeah, right now we're not looking at anything that's encrypted.
So you can get fishes of the email, maybe?
Yeah, well, if you got a URL inside of your email and that URL was a bad URL, it would be blocked. We are able to block bad URLs even if they're HTTPS. But if you had an attachment that was being downloaded through HTTPS, then at this point, no. Hopefully your desktop anti-malware would catch it.
How do you handle false positives?
Our users are very vocal, and when you have 10 million of them, you start to know really quick what your false positives are. So we have a ticketing system, and people usually will yell at us, and we just update the rules.
Thanks.
Is Spotflux in addition to your antivirus or to replace it?
We like to think of it as just like, if you think of security as defense in depth, we think of it as like an addition. For a lot of appliances and things where it's just not possible to have anti-malware on that appliance, we're probably the only line of defense. But on desktops and things like that, it's a complement. And also it has a privacy advantage that your anti-malware software wouldn't give you.
Do you maintain logging history?
No. Unless we get subpoenaed, and that's another thing. But
So you do real-time packet inspection, but then for the predictive analytics, I assume you have to store things so you can correlate. What type of things do you store? How do you handle privacy, and how effective are those analytics? And maybe I'm a bit skeptical, but I think if users install this, they're probably above the curve and they're not taking another dumb things. Maybe you get the best users that you will get enough data.
there's a lot of use cases for the product, but typically on any month we have about 2 million people that are actively using it. So that produces about 12 petabytes of data through our data centers every month, which is a good amount to inspect. The analytics that we do are very high level, and the information that we keep to do analytics on is completely stripped of any sort of identity. So we're looking at requests on a request basis, not on a who did it basis. We're not looking at session information. We're not looking deep down into the packets. Yeah.
Do you have, two questions, do you have any performance issue? Second, are you using any data analytics platform like Hadoop or Storm to do analytics stuff?
Yeah, we have our own analytics code, but we use Redis as part of the equation, but we're not using it.
You do everything in memory, basically.
We do everything on our own hardware with our own code. It gets crunched down, and then any of the higher level analytics go out to Redis and get stored there. Yeah. I think there was another question. So.
Performance.
Oh, performance. Right. So because we're doing encryption, there's always going to be some level of performance hit. Where we try to make up for that is by adding page speed filters and SPDY. So we try to cancel it out, if you will.
When there's a new threat that appears out there on the internet, how long would you say it takes you to identify that and begin protecting your users against it?
Most of the threat intelligence that we're getting right now is from external sources, and we're pulling that I think every 10 to 15 minutes. So as soon as the updates come down to us, they're live on the platform. So from that perspective, it's probably quicker than updating 10 million desktops for. Yeah.
What's your enterprise strategy you talked about before?
Yeah, we have plans for going there. No, so we're in the process of building the same offering for enterprises, so that we essentially become the default gateway, the first hop before you go out to the internet, and we do all the inspection. You'll be able to select which rule sets you want, do real-time reporting, and basically replace your UTM appliance.
Do you see any uptick in joining the service from users after the NSA?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Is it still going on, or people are back to normal?
It's still going on. I mean, there's a healthy demand for both privacy and security in the consumer space.
Which event did you say?
Snowden.
Oh, Snowden, okay.
You talked about latency and having, how do you choose where to have your software reside in terms of data centers? In other words, are you partnering with?
We look to see where other big content providers are, look to see where Google is, look to see where Netflix is, and we go near them, because you can look at, if you're an ISP like Verizon, or even if you have the amount of traffic we do, you can really quickly see where most of the traffic of the internet is going to. And it's very, very much a few properties, and the rest is kind of low-level noise.
So do you approach them and have your software reside in data centers they build, or you try to replicate in a close proximity to where they are?
Usually it's close proximity, or usually they're co-locating in the same data center that we are. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You go to 10 million users.
Yeah.
Can you give some insight how you go to 10 million users? Viral?
It's we've done very little marketing. We've spent less than $100,000 today on marketing.
Okay.
So most of it has been word of mouth and just social channels, going to things like this, getting the word out. Yeah.
So there are plugins like Ghostery that try to block traffic, which is the ad platforms are trying to fight back and put some of the code that will render the page as part of their delivery.
Yeah.
How do you see that balance? I mean, are you finding more pages that don't work because of what you're blocking, and do you have to?
No. So the strategy right now by browsing companies is to basically get them to not block their platform or to remove the extension. Because most of these companies are extension based. Since while we do have an extension product, but our main product is not extension based, and everything's happening in our data center, it's pretty hard to block, unless they end up blocking all of our servers everywhere, in which case they're blocking a lot of users from their services.
One more question. Netflix is taking a lot of bandwidth.
Yep.
When the user uses your service, it goes through your network. It seems to be just a waste for you. So, do you have a way to make a decision at the front?
Bandwidth is cheap. When you buy in the quantities that we buy it, it's cheap. So it's not. Of course, it's a waste of bits, but.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks.